Coming up on this episode of One-on-One Sports,
we break out the props to describe the opening weekend of the MLB season,
recap the exciting NCAA tournament,
and look ahead to the 2018 World Cup.
All that and so much more.
And it all starts
right now. Basketball, football, hockey, oh my, it's been an exciting week here in the sports world. And Mason and I are here to discuss this roller coaster and what it means for the future. Notre Dame's Arike Ogunbowale hit not one but two improbable buzzer beaters, one to knock off then undefeated UConn and a second to defeat Mississippi State in the national championship game. Mason, is this stretch of success the greatest that we've seen in NCAA tournament history?
When I thought of this question, I thought of what was the most shocking runs to potentially an NCAA Final Four or a national championship game. The first one that popped in my head was 2 years ago when Syracuse advanced to the 2016 NCAA title game as a 4 seed. They had to go through South Carolina, which at that time was Asia Wilson, Elena Coates, Tiffany Mitchell, then go through Washington with Kelsey Plum and Chantal Osahor.
But then they lost to UConn.
They got killed by UConn.
And I got to say, that's my choice. Is the way that I interpreted of it was just overall domination. The 4-year run that UConn had, winning 4 straight NCAA tournaments, winning every game by over 10 points in each tournament.
It was truly an incredible run. I would also say you have to go back a couple more years, talk about Louisville and that run that they had in 2013
really
to the national title game. Again, they lost to UConn, but they got through what I believe was one of the most dominant programs in the history of women's college basketball, and that Baylor team with Brittany Griner in her senior year, knocking her out in that Elite Eight
I remember
game.
Before UConn went on that run, everybody was terrified of that Baylor team. Louisville
I was fully convinced that that team was going to win it all.
Specifically Brittany Griner, too.
Still one of the most dominant players in the history of the game. I would also give a little bit of an honorable mention, go back to the first ever NCAA tournament women's basketball championship, 1982, Cheney State College, the only non-Division I school to ever play in a national championship game. It's in Pennsylvania.
Okay. Very nice. Congratulations, but let's move on.
Joel Embiid suffered an orbital fracture and concussion in the 76ers game against the New York Knicks. Embiid is out indefinitely until post-surgery. The 76ers currently on a 9-game win streak. So, Thomas, what do you think this is going to have in terms of an impact on the Sixers?
I mean, obviously, this is so detrimental to the Sixers, especially with their playoff
Devastating.
hopes.
Not detrimental, devastating.
Absolutely. When Embiid is on the court, they're outscoring opponents by 12 points per 100 possessions. When he's off the court, they're getting outscored by 4 points.
I think this is very simple. If Joel Embiid is indeed the process, and he is not playing, there is no process. So there is no winning.
How's it going to work? They got a first-round matchup, and it's looking like it's going to be against either the Pacers or the Wizards. John Wall just got back.
It's the Pacers.
Exactly.
Pray it's the Pacers.
John Wall is back.
Yes, because John Wall is back, but also this Indiana team has been a surprise all year, but I don't think it's going to be a surprise in the playoffs. I think they're going to be horrible because I mean, really, other than Victor Oladipo, this team is not very deep.
Miles Turner
has not performed. Domantas Sabonis has not been good, and he's been hurt over the last month or so of the season. If they go up against them, even without Joel Embiid, they have a chance, though.
Embiid had the opportunity to really shine in that game going up against Miles Turner, but now it looks like Ben Simmons is really going to have to take a lot of control of this team.
Obviously, we'll know, they will have decided the Rookie of the Year before that, but Ben Simmons can really put the nail in the coffin for his Rookie of the Year if he comes out and balls out in the playoffs.
I'm wondering if he's going to be playing point guard. We'll find out soon.
Play every position.
Absolutely. With only a few weeks until the NFL draft, rumors are swirling about the Giants wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. being traded for a high draft pick. The Giants have made it clear they're not actively shopping Beckham Jr., but are keeping the phone lines open. So Mason, if he were to be traded, where would you say he goes to get a championship?
Well, there's been an interesting development over the last couple of minutes, actually. The Los Angeles Rams trading for Brandon Cooks and a 4th-round pick in exchange for their 1st-round pick in the NFL draft. If Odell Beckham Jr. goes to the Rams, I don't even think it's a question that the Rams are the favorites to win the Super Bowl.
That's quite a scary wide receiver duo. Let me tell you what.
Cooks, OBJ, on top of Jared Goff playing at an extremely high level, Todd Gurley, and a defense that somehow got better
Incredible.
With Ndamukong Suh joining the team.
The moves that the Rams made so far, they're really looking good for the Super Bowl.
The Rams are filthy. The only thing that isn't filthy is having a Ram as a mascot.
That's true. They should look into that maybe. My pick's going to be the Atlanta Falcons. You've got a really experienced quarterback in Matt Ryan. He's in his prime. They've got the money to give Odell Beckham a full contract. And imagine Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu, and Odell Beckham
here's
Jr.
my problem there is that you have too many studs.
Sounds like you got too many studs on the Rams, too.
But Brandon Cooks is more than willing to defer to Odell Beckham Jr.
Okay.
Whereas Julio Jones may be the best receiver in the league. Odell
Imagine
Beckham
them on
Jr.
opposite sides.
Doesn't matter, though.
You get a lot of pressure off of one of those guys, and then the other can run around and distract.
Both of them want to be the guy, whereas Brandon Cooks knows that OBJ would be the guy. In Atlanta, Julio Jones is the guy.
Yeah.
He's always been the guy. OBJ thinks he's the guy, despite the fact that he basically missed all
Attitude
last
problems
season.
will always play a role into the first season, but say the chemistry works, it could be a really
But the question is
dangerous
who's going
combination.
to win the ring? It's the Rams.
That's true. All right, you're right.
The Chicago Blackhawks were in a huge bind when they had to find an emergency replacement goaltender. Scott Foster was their answer, a 37-year-old accountant who stepped up and proceeded to have his night when he stopped all 7 shots fired his way, paving the road for the Hawks' 6-2 victory over the Winnipeg Jets. So, Thomas, the question is, should this guy get a full contract?
Let me tell you what, that was such a fun and interesting story to see. It reminded me once again of the Vince Papale situation, Invincible, but I think that's pretty much where it's going to land. I can't really see him getting a contract to a team in the future, but bad teams that need some help in goal know who to go to.
37.
Yeah.
Why would you ever hire someone who's 37?
Just because of one
But
game.
this is also why hockey is so ridiculously weird. I will say the strangest thing about all of this is that he got an amateur trial, not a professional trial.
And what does that mean?
An amateur trial means you get a one-day contract, no pay, and you get to shake hands with everyone at the end of the game and say, congratulations, you played on an NHL roster.
Hey, thanks for saving all 7 of these
Professional
shots.
trial,
There
you get
go.
a one-day contract, $500, and you get to keep your jersey.
Ooh, and Scott only got an amateur contract.
Correct. Which is why if he gets another one, it better be a darn professional
He
contract.
got a really good first day tryout.
Professional trial, yeah.
Professional tryout. Hopefully he'll get $500 next.
Yeah, that seems like a good payday.
the very
I'd
least.
like $500. Well, that's all the time we have for these quick hitters, but coming up, I'll be throwing some screwballs to our MLB experts. Stay tuned. The first weekend of the MLB season is in the books, and I'm joined at the desk by Matt Holzaffel and Emmanuel Taube for a prop block to describe the biggest stories from opening weekend. So, Matt, we'll start with you. Opening day, we had first pitch home runs inside the Parkers, 3 home run days. What would be your prop to describe the opening weekend as a whole?
It was a fantastic opening day. I'm going to go with
Opening
this.
day.
This foam finger because we're all just fans and we're going to so enjoy this historic season. It started off with Giancarlo Stanton's 2 home runs. And then we had Noah Syndergaard, 10 Ks in 5 innings, so many debuts with new teams. It was fantastic. It was so fun to watch. We're going to have a historic season. I'm so excited to watch it.
I agree with that. During the first opening day, we are huge fans. We are. I'm a huge fan. It's so interesting. It's so entertaining. But the problem is, in the middle of the season, we become smaller fans. We don't become interested as much. So my question is, will this season be able to keep us like this fan, keep us this interested? But ultimately, I don't know if that's the case.
I don't think we can keep up with the first day, but overall, I love it. I love it.
Dual props. Now, Emmanuel, shifting over to the Tigers and Ron Gardenhire, who thought he had a walk-off win in his home opener, but then he didn't. Gets reversed, he gets ejected. What is your prop to describe his ejection and reaction to that ejection?
I have a bowl of Frosted Flakes, okay?
That's a box of Frosted.
A box of Frosted Flakes, you're right. And obviously there's a tiger on it, but what I want to tell him is to slow down Tiger, all right? I want to tell him to relax, okay? Don't lose your control. I know that it's upsetting and stuff like that, but if you look at the game, that was a game that they really should have lost. I mean, they were down 10-6 in the bottom of the 9th. I mean, they should not have won that game. It's not a good team. You know, they're great. No, but Detroit Tigers are not a great team. Ultimately, it's going to be a long year for them, and the manager really has to keep his cool.
I think that's what made him so mad was because he thought they had a chance to win despite, like you said, they're not that great. I've got these red hots because Gardenhire was red hot, and he has a great name. He doesn't have a great team. This is a team who's rebuilding, hasn't made the playoffs since 2014. Miguel Cabrera is not the MVP he once was. It's just not the same team. They're below 500 now. They started 0 for 3. Maybe he wanted to get his team fired up. It didn't work too well. They're 1-4 now, so something has to give. For
They're
the
not
Detroit
red
Tigers.
hot, and people will eat them for breakfast. Also, last one, Shohei Ohtani. He's been a phenomenon ever since he announced his move to Major League Baseball. We got to see him this weekend hitting and pitching. What was your take on it, Matt?
Well, I have a magnifying glass because no one has ever come into the league under such a microscope like Shohei Ohtani. His move was so documented and it was so anticipated that we all had such high hopes for him. And he did fine. He did well. It was, for someone making their major league debut who's never going to pitch in the minor leagues or hit in the minor leagues, it was great. He got a win, he got a hit. But so much scrutiny. He doesn't really deserve all that, but he's in the spotlight for a reason.
I'm kind of on the same boat in terms of he's getting a lot of attention. For what I want to say to a lot of fans is, give him time. Okay, let's all relax. Let's all wait.
Terrible pun.
A lot of people were complaining about his hitting, saying that he wasn't really that spectacular. And I'm just like, give him time. You know, he was 1 for 5, had 1 single, but ultimately it's him transitioning to a new phase of his career. He's coming from a totally different country, a totally different league. I just want to give him time.
I agree, but when you make your debut from, like you said, a new country, he had a win, he had a hit, he had 6 strikeouts, he retired 14 of his last 15 batters. That's great.
That's the pitching
I agree
stats,
with you.
though.
He needs the time. Yeah, he needs the time. He's going to be great. Give him some slack because he's under the microscope for sure.
Well, put on your foam fingers and let's be fans, as that's all the time we have for this MLB Prop Block. Up next, Thomas will be joined by our college basketball experts to recap the exciting NCAA tournament.
Wow, these are really good.
You act surprised. Practice makes perfect.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
No thanks, Dad. I got it.
Okay. I'm gonna go fix the lamp in your room.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of children in foster care who will take you just as you are.
I don't know what's happening. Start a new chat. What did I do? Okay. Wow. That is so weird.
Hey! Hi!
Oh my gosh. Hi! God, I don't even know what to say right now. I'm so nervous. Gia, you're so big. Come closer to the camera. Wait, now you're in my face. That was so good.
It's no fairy tale that the right fit means everything, especially when it comes to car seats. Always choose one that's the right fit for your child's age and size.
That does make a difference.
To find out more, visit safercar.gov/therightseat.
Danse, balancez la cadence, ondule bien tes hanches, au bal du dimanche.
You didn't give up on sex. Don't give up on birth control either. There are more methods than you think. Find yours at bedsider.org.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Okay. She's gonna love me all over again.
Jamaica, here you come.
Here we go.
Good job.
When you throw away money on wasted electricity, you're throwing away everything you could have bought with it. Saving energy saves you money.
It has been an absolutely magical March Madness filled with dramatic upsets and dominating performances. We're here with our basketball experts, Ennis Warlick and Brad Clear, to recap this year's March Madness tournament. So guys, huge games. Like, history was made this tournament. Ennis, what was the best game that you saw?
It's got to be Duke and Kansas. These are two, well, not number 1 seeds, but number 1 and number 2 seed going at it. Two blue chip programs going into overtime battling. It's got to be Duke and Kansas.
Okay. Just to play devil's advocate here, because it's really hard to pick against that, I thought Loyola Chicago and Nevada would probably be my second favorite game.
Sister Jean.
How can you go? I love Sister Jean. She's
Exactly.
the best. But yeah, when Custer made that shot with like 5 seconds left to put them up, they only won by 1 point. It was back and forth like last 2.5 minutes. Yeah. That's what college basketball, March Madness specifically, is all about.
Like you said, hard to play devil's advocate for the Duke
but
and
yeah,
Kansas
that's
game,
one of the best games ever.
But yeah, Loyola and Nevada was a very good game.
Such a tight one. I'm going to have to go with that UMBC Virginia game just because absolute history was made. You don't see that ever.
Very
Never
true.
Simple as that. So Brad, we're moving on now. What player do you think played the best through the entire tournament?
Well, I think there's a lot to choose from here, but for me, it's Mikal Bridges from the champion Villanova. Averaged 17.5 points per game, shot over 40% from the field. Yeah.
So he had a good tournament, but he didn't play well in every game, and that's the thing. My player played well in every game. He scored big in every game.
Who's that?
Malik Newman from Kansas. Put up 32 in a game, put up 22 to the game after that. This was a good score. He was very underrated. I know they didn't make it to the championship game like Mikhail did, but it's got to be Malik Newman.
Yeah, again, a hard argument to go against that, but I look at it. Bridges came into this tournament widely recognized, one of the best players in it, and a top 10 draft pick coming into the upcoming NBA draft. And I think he increased his stock to the point where he may get picked a pick or two earlier.
Right, but you could also make the argument that he wasn't even the best player on his
Sure,
own
you could say
team.
Jalen Brunson was also. Yeah.
Also.
The question was the tournament. We're sticking with both guys had great performances.
Yeah.
I got to go with Dante DiVincenzo in that last game, honestly.
Well,
that last game alone sold it for me. That was incredible. I got to give him the game. It was amazing.
Okay.
So, Ennis, who was the most impressive team in the tournament?
It's going to sound super cliche, but it's got to be Nova. They dominated the tournament. They really didn't have any close calls. Their closest call was 11 points. But yeah, it's got to be Nova. I don't see how you could pick anyone else. Yeah.
But, all right, well, I'm going to pick someone else. Look, Villanova coming into it, in my mind, was the favorite to win the whole thing. Loyola Chicago, as an 11 seed, was not even supposed to make it out of the first round, made it to the Final Four. Anytime you have a Cinderella team like that make it so far, like, okay, there's no expectation of them making it out of the first round, and they made it to the Final Four, whereas Villanova was expected to be in the championship game.
It was impressive. There's no one debating that, but they played in a close game pretty much every game they played in.
Still made it that far.
It was impressive, but they were close with every
I
team
look at
they
it as
played.
Villanova played as they were expected to. Loyola Chicago wildly exceeded any
I don't think they were
expectation that could have
expected to
existed.
win. In my opinion, I don't think they were expected to win.
Tough.
I
That's
think
tough.
UVA was the favorite.
I see your point. The underdog is always a great story, but classic dominance took away the whole tournament at the end of the day. It was such a good one to watch. But this is officially the close of the college basketball season. Up next, Mason will be sitting down with Jenny Berman and Tyler Chavez to discuss the upcoming Russia World Cup.
The countdown to Russia 2018 continues, and despite the controversy that has arisen over the past decade concerning FIFA, one of the greatest worldwide sporting events is still expected to amaze. I'm here with Jenny Berman and Tyler Chavez as we look ahead to this year's FIFA World Cup. So Tyler, we're going to start off with the greatest one, Lionel Messi, arguably the greatest player not only in the world but maybe to ever play, and yet he has never won a major international trophy with Argentina. Does he need to be the greatest that's ever played the game of football?
In my eyes, he's already the greatest in terms of skill, in terms of how he carries his team. But for the media and the critics, this is the last thing he needs. He hasn't won an international trophy, and when you look at his contemporaries for greatest of all time, Pele has an international trophy, Maradona has an international trophy, Ronaldo just got his international
Do you consider
trophy.
Pele and Maradona his contemporaries, though?
In the argument for greatest of all time, yes.
But they're playing from a different era when there wasn't as much competition. I mean, I feel like at the end of the day, you look at what the Argentinian national team has gone through with scandals and corruption and honestly not having as much money as a lot of the other national team
adds
programs.
the importance for Messi to win it. Argentina hasn't won a World Cup since '86.
They've had
they
so
just
much
lost in the
against them.
final.
That's the point.
So is getting Argentina that World Cup, elevating them back to the status of being the best in the world, would make Messi, for many people, officially the greatest.
But Messi can't do it alone, is my thing. He's the greatest player. He's clearly on another level from the other players on Argentina, and they're only starting to really fill in a lot of that talent. And at the end of the day, it's still that backline, that goalkeeping that always seems to get them in trouble. And it's because there isn't really an elite world-class player in that part of the field.
Now, Jenny, obviously Argentina hasn't won anything, but you know who hasn't won anything as well? England.
That's true.
Hasn't won a World Cup since the 60s. They still only have that one, haven't even made a semifinal since Italy 92. Is this their year?
It's not their year. And
Is it England's year?
The thing is that I don't think it's as big a joke as what people have been saying now, because honestly, this core of this team is just a little too young. They're not quite ready for the bright lights yet, but we're talking 2022, and I think we're talking about a contender here.
Exactly. If you take a look at England's youth right now, they just won the Under-20 World Cup. They won the Under-19 Euros. They have a strong core, but the problem is, I don't think England's really developing that right now. Those guys are not getting as many minutes in the Premier League as they should, and I don't think they're going to get as many of the call-ups to this World Cup. England is known for two things. They're known for losing in penalties and being underwhelming. They're not even the favorite in their group right now. Belgium is.
But I think that's with all due respect, Belgium is one of the best teams in
Belgium's
the world
amazing.
right now. And as I said, England isn't ready for prime time. But the thing is that I don't think it's because 19 and 20-year-olds aren't getting a whole lot of playing time. It's because guys like Harry Kane are getting into their prime now. Dele Alli still really getting into that upper stratosphere of great players. And those are going to be your leaders going forward. And I think that not having a lot lot of young players featuring isn't necessarily the problem, just that this isn't the timing for England.
And I think that even when you take a look at some of the other competition from other parts of the world, South America, teams from Africa and Asia have impressed. We've seen how England plays down to competition. They have won one World Cup game since their quarterfinals appearance in 2006. They just play down to their competition, and if you get past their group stage, great. You're going to end up probably playing Colombia or Poland, and I think they're going to crash out there.
And I think what's going to change in the future is that there are so many players now who are really making their mark in the Champions League. They're making their mark in these competitions where it's not just against England players in England-style football. And so I think that is going to be the biggest difference going forward.
I just hope it's not another generation of chokers. That's all I'm hoping.
You can hope.
Last question. Zlatan might be coming back to Sweden. No Italy, no Netherlands, no United States. Who's your dark horse in this tournament?
A few people have mentioned them, but I gotta hop on the bandwagon. I gotta go Egypt. Mohamed Salah right now has some of the best form in the entire world. If you look at their group, it's a very manageable group.
But again, we're talking about one player. In the same way that we have problems with Messi in Argentina, Salah is one player. And the thing about Egypt, and honestly, their run is incredible. You can't take that away from them. Great story. But they've only been able to win games in Egypt. So they're going to a World Cup in a completely...
Who's your pick?
My pick is Portugal, and it's...
That's not a dark horse.
It is a dark horse. They really, honestly...
Defending European champions
It doesn't
are dark
matter,
horses.
though. The thing is that they're not seen as one of the typical favorites to win the World Cup. They have a group where, honestly, they're not the favorites in their group either, and I think that they can make a good run for it. They have a tough run in the competition.
And it's interesting because Portugal and Egypt could end up facing each other in the round of 16, but...
I don't want to cut you off. I really don't. I'm so sorry. But we have a couple more months to discuss it, so we'll get the answer later.
More.
But we've been waiting 4 long years, and we still have a couple more months, as I said, but we also have 5 more months before the NFL season starts, but who cares because there's still plenty to discuss. When we come back, we'll shift to the lounge to discuss whether we now have the answer to the most difficult question in all of sports. What is a catch?
Here's your check. Oh, you got it. You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. God, no.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early.
You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving. If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
You sure you don't want some? It's chamomile. Listen, you are extremely terrifying. Just the scariest undead subhuman thing on TV, and I really mean that. But I am worried that you could give my kids nightmares if they see you, so I'm gonna have to block you. So that's it. Oh, and tell the zombies they're blocked too.
When you throw away money on wasted electricity, you're throwing away everything you could have bought with it. Saving energy saves you money.
36 homers. Swings at the first pitch and fouls it deep back into the stands.
Chill raw and prepared foods promptly. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov. Separate raw meats from other foods by using different cutting boards. 3,000 Americans will die from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
Perhaps the one NFL discussion that never ends is the one concerning its rules. Over the past few weeks, the NFL Owners and Competition Committee have discussed several rule changes, some significant, some not. Of the 6 that passed, perhaps the most notable rule change is the new catch rule, replacing one that has caused so much controversy over the past decade. The new catch rule has eliminated the surviving the ground clause and replaced it with a clause stating that the receiver must make another football move, such as a third step, or have the ability to. So guys, how does this change how the referees are going to be calling games?
I think it's great because when you look back at the replays where we often see these challenges happen, no longer is the ball going to be obstructed by another player or like another item on the, or if you just don't have a good view of it, rather you're judging by the player's motion itself, and I think it really eliminates a lot of cloudy areas in it.
But they're still going to be taking time to review all these things. Again, implementing these new rules is not going to be simple. Here's the thing, referees are still going to miss calls, and the rule on the field is if a call is if they make the call on the field, they're going to go to that first if it's not absolutely clear. So here's my thing with this. These new rules are great, but they're not going to solve the catch problems. There's still going to be these cloudy.
I think it will too.
Not all of them.
Honestly, yeah.
How so, Jimmy?
Now, with this whole entire rule, we all saw the Dez Bryant catch a couple of years ago.
Was it a catch?
Finally, they ruled it a catch.
Anyways.
But I really think that this clears a lot of confusion for the fans out there that really don't know what a catch is. It was kind of sad to play and watch.
Exactly, because we saw it on Twitter. We saw those arguments on what a catch was, and now this clears it up at least a little bit. You have motions, you have body language on the field, you have steps, you have them actually going to the ground and being a catch as well. There are just so many new steps that'll help clear this thing up. I don't see how it can help solve.
I almost feel like instant replay made this a bigger issue than it is, because this has not always been a major the Immaculate Reception, right? We can go back to that. That was still people aren't sure if that was a catch or not, which it was. But here's the thing.
One of the best of all time.
One of the best. But the way instant replays work, it's elongated the game. It's broken up the pacing of the game.
Well, I think that
and these rules are not going to help in the long run, at least significantly.
I think this is going to speed up the
It's going to use it for good rather than just use it to put off.
They're still going to miss calls.
We are constantly doing the instant replay, and that's why a lot of the ratings, a lot of fans were not trying to.
One of the toughest parts that I noticed with instant replay was all the different angles that they would try to find the ball at. And obviously, like you said, sometimes you just don't have that angle, and we're stuck watching this thing for 4 or 5 minutes. Now it looks like we can look at the motions. Things are going to be much more cleared up. But that's all the time the Old Rules Committee has. When we come back, Mason and I will talk some sibling rivalries. Stick around. You won't want to miss this.
For most kids growing up, the first rivalry they experience is with their sibling. For some families, the rivalry doesn't end in the backyard as it continues into their professional career. We've had some talented siblings run through the land of sports, but Thomas, who do you think is the best sibling duo?
I think I've got to give it to the queens of tennis, the Williams sisters, Serena and Venus Williams. 30 Grand Slam titles combined between the two, 23 for Serena, 7 for Venus. They've got 4 gold medals a pop, 3 in doubles. Incredible duo.
It's how well they've played together, which is so incredible. But I have to give it to the Nurse family, the extended family.
The entire family.
Yes, because you have Kia Nurse, point guard for the Canadian national team and UConn. You have her brother Darnell, who plays for the Edmonton Oilers. Her sister played basketball at Oregon State as well as Bowling Green. Their father Richard played in the CFL. Mother played college basketball in Canada. Cousin just finished with a silver medal for the national team for Canada in the Olympics. And their uncle is Donovan McNabb.
Wow, sports seem to run in the family, huh?
They're all filthy.
Quite a diverse portfolio as well.
Yeah, it doesn't really trickle down to the rest of us, does it?
No,
it just kind of stays in the family.
They should spread it around a little bit, maybe. But as far as championships, I'm sticking with the Venus and Serena pair. Too good.
I can't deny that. Other than the Bryan brothers on the men's side and the Williams sisters on the women's side, completely dominating the world of tennis for now well over a decade and a half.
And one of the only times in history, 2010, that you're going to see 2 sisters in the top 2 positions in the world rankings.
And the fact that whenever they go against each other, and then later in the afternoon will play with each other is so ridiculous. It doesn't happen in any other sport.
A switch of the mindset like that is so interesting.
Oh, absolutely. To compete and then compete with.
It's always good to know that they still support each other, though.
They certainly do. What a family. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode of One-on-One Sports.
Special thanks to all of our producers, crew, talent, and you, the viewer, for tuning in.
If you missed anything or want to check us out on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, you can do that all at One-on-One Sports.
And that's all from us here. And until next time.
Whose side are you on?